Okay, my little chocolate chip cookies. Today we're back with lower body session number 2 for speed. Strength training for speed, that is. I'm already plenty strong enough for sprinting. I'm just going to squat again. I'm going to squat twice a week because I want to maintain my squat. You know, if I was weaker, if we had an athlete who was trying to run fast but wasn't that good at pulling or squatting, like say they were just weaker in general, like you'd give them a little bit more leeway when it comes to the pulling and the squatting. So the squat would still be a bit more important, than you'd look for the hamstrings in the other fashion. But if you'd somewhere, 100 meter sprinter, 800 meter runner, 400, 1600, if they were able to squat double body weight and they could barely pull close to double body weight, if it was moving really slow, it's not a bad metric. Look, it's not the most precise metric and it all depends on the individual athlete, but if you had someone who could squat double body weight and not deadlift much more, but they were able to move that double body weight deadlift pretty fast, then you're like, okay, probably going to keep most of the focus when there's a focus on strength training on the squatting as one of the main movements. And you'd still move the deadlift, but you wouldn't push it that hard. There would be no point pushing the deadlift much more on that, but you probably move the needle a little bit more on the squat. But then if you had someone who is, squatting pretty decent numbers, but their pull is really lagging, you would try and make an opportunity in the training, whether that's in the off season, maybe it's an in season, to move that deadlift up a little bit faster or a little bit higher if possible. It's not always possible, and obviously the sport has to take priority, but if you can plan that out over 6 months, 12 months, maybe more, usually a 12-month period is fairly realistic time to try and move the needle on these aspects. But if you've got someone who's squatting really well, deadlifting pretty good, you don't have to be deadlifting massive numbers. We're pretty happy at Seek Strength if it's kind of a 1-to-1 ratio, squatting, pulling. Unless you're really weirdly built, sometimes we get these sprinters who are just, they've got limbs for days and they can deadlift like 20 more kilos than their best squat. But when that's like that, then that's fine. But if we've got someone, let's say they can squat 160, deadlift 160 pretty good, then you're pretty happy with that. So you'll keep the main drivers the squat because it's just less fatiguing most of the time than heavy deadlifts. So for me, that's kind of the focus of the way we'll see these sessions go, but it's also because I want to keep squatting. So that's one of the reasons. Then we're going to do some lower body stuff, so single leg work, which I actually just really don't like doing. And I need to do it because I need to address this hip flexor issue. It's very, very minor. I need to stretch and mobilize it. But also for trying to make some straight line sprinting the priority, then, it pays to do that single leg work. All my athletes get single leg work. It doesn't matter what sport you're doing. Push the single leg work heavy. If someone's squatting 200 kilos high bar, you're going to have 100 kilo sets of, if you're a powerlifter, for example, you're going to have heavy single leg stuff. And you're going to have heavy snatch grip RDLs, and it really benefits. But luckily I coach myself so I can ignore that shit. So safety bar squats again today, or poor man's safety squats, or Americans might use ghetto squat bar, but ghetto's not really a slang word in Ireland. Obviously everyone knows what it means, but it's not really a word we use. We have poor man's squat bar. If you're into cars, the Ford Capri 2-litre petrol, no turbo, kind of car back in the 80s, it was known as a poor man's sports car, because it was relatively cheap, but it was fast and rear-wheel drive. I'm not sure if anyone watches is into cars though. So, start warming up with these. I'm going to aim for a fast triple. That might be 180, that might be 240. I suspect it's going to be somewhere between 220 to 240. Now that raises the question, if you're listening, does that mean velocity-based training is a good idea? Should you be monitoring bar speed? And the answer to that is, if you can do that, then you should, or it's nice to do that, but you don't have to do that. We can, as coaches, and as someone who's used to my squatting, I can just know how it feels, because you will be able to, a good coach will be able to line up the approximate proposed speeds with what they're looking for just watching a lifter. It's not that hard. There's relatively simple brackets. Really fast, actual fast working weight, and then it's too heavy. And it's very, very obvious, and it's very, very easy to do it correctly. You just go a little bit more cautious. You don't have to push it super hard, You probably should be, if you're going for a single to a triple, you're probably going to be somewhere between 75 and 80% of your best back squat. If you're going for fast squats, which it's important, depending on the time of year. You're trying to run fast, you're peaking. Obviously, I'm not peaking, I'm still fat. But, you just want weights to be moving fast. Same as throwers in the in-season, runners, anyone like that. Maybe not quite rugby players, not quite American football players, but soccer players, other people like that. You just look at the bar speed, and if you're like, ooh, is that too slow? Stop. Simple as, it's so easy. You don't have to complicate it. Is it nice to have a linear force transducer? Is it nice to have a force plate? Is it nice to have a velocity meter on the barbell? Absolutely. I would love to have one, and I actually might get one just to see. But you don't need it. It's so easy just to go, yeah, that's pretty fast enough. Just be cautious. Always err on the side of caution when you're doing strength work in season or at a time when you need to be fast. If at any point you're like, oh, that's too slow, just stop. Just forget about it. Just be like, yep, move on. Most of the benefit is mostly done if you've got to a point where you think that's too slow. And it's such a good way of regulating that in season. Or if your coach isn't there, you just go, okay, too slow, leave it there. So I might push a little bit more, probably won't. Also, I squatted 300 8 days ago, so I'm feeling really good. Around Wednesday, I felt the best I felt in months. Okay, enough jibber jabber, let's do some squats. I'm going to be using sleeves today, put on the belt. I think you could go either way when it comes to using sleeves as purely speed athlete. I think you could justify wearing sleeves because your speed could be a lot noticeably better on squats. And if you move that weight faster with sleeves on, there's an argument to be made that that's beneficial, Now, if we're using fucking GPC, West Side, crazy wraps, obviously that's probably gone too far in one direction. But if you're looking at unsleeved raw squatting plus sleeved squatting, which is still raw, I suppose, there's a good argument to be made either or. That said, if we had a 80 kilo 100 meter sprinter and he could move 200 kilos really fast without sleeves, or that's at 2.5 times body weight, I would probably err on the side of him doing that without sleeves. I think the difference is probably negligible, but probably still present. Now, if the lifter wants to wear the Birkin Lifter 3000s, they're probably not ready for that. So today on my safety bar squats, I need to put my back into much more extension. I was too kyphotic in the last session. A little bit of butt wink at the bottom, which I normally don't have. So I need to be much better positioned this way. So back to that athlete squatting with sleeves. Let's say you're that 80 kilo athlete and you can move that 200 kilos really fast. But then if you put on sleeves, you can move 230 just as fast as that 200 kilos. There's a good argument to be made there in the right context with the right athlete that 230 is nice and valuable, So, I wouldn't have a hard and fast rule for it, but it's it's worth considering. You know, if you get a lot out of knee sleeves, just for whatever reason, like knee sleeves don't give you that much. But if you get 20, 30 kilos for some reason, then it's worth it. Because you're worth it. When you're an athlete who is squatting with the purpose of supporting power and speed, I like for you just to get through your squat session and section as fast as possible. Don't waste any time, then don't waste more time than you need to. Just fast, hop, triple, get it done. You know, should be able to do it in 15 minutes. Once you've started with the bar, nice, healthy warm-up, warm what you need to warm up, do what you need to do, and then just bish, bash, bush. Get in, get out, move on to the rest of your session. Maybe you've warmed up at plyos, maybe you've warmed up at skill work. Just get it in, get it out, straight in, no kissing. Now, if I was coaching me, which I am, I'd probably leave it there. It'd be a good spot. Could you get more out of 220? Yeah. How much is going to help? If you're not in the off season, probably going to mostly have some negatives. So, should I leave it there? Technically. Am I going to leave it there? No. I'm going to go to 220 because I just want to keep my squat, keep it nice. The squatter in me wants to do another set. I don't need to do another set, but I kind of want to do another set. Who doesn't want to do what they're good at? Don't look at me like that. I do another one. Now, the squatter in me wants to do 8 more sets, which is a fantastic thing to be doing the week after a massive lifetime PB that I want to keep squatting. So that is a great sign. So for those of you hoping for a 320 plus, including me, that is a very good sign. Oh, that's really good. So happy with that. There's a want for more. In MMA, they call it a technical stand-up. Jiu-Jitsu doesn't seem to have a name for it, but it is disgusting as far as single leg work goes. So feel free to try this. Mostly, this isn't much a hip mobility tool. Exposes all the soft tissue work to as much range of motion as possible. But it's pretty yucky and I might weight them. So it's a lovely little warm-up, or yeah, kind of like a mini warm-up in the session for single leg work. If you find that the single leg work hurts your hips or flexors or knee. Now that might even be doable if you have issues. But if you can't do it at all, or it exposes something, then it's worth taking note. Today's single leg torture is standing on the same spot lunges, like walking lunges, just with the bar. Okay, on to the core work. I like a lot of do some side bends and some crunches. I'm gonna do some crunches. Side bends and crunches, superset. Actually, obviously, sit-ups instead. Get a bit more range of motion, better for jiu-jitsu. So I like the side bends for obliques is carries are nice, wader carries, single arm farmers carries are lovely, but not a lot of room in the shed. It's annoying for the barbell, so just a little side bend is nice. I know a lot of people, some of the weightlifters watching, see the Chinese. I don't love those. I don't really rate those that much. I need to talk to Steph why the Chinese love those so much, but I prefer the other unilateral core work than those. Something we really need to talk about is what was Sauron going to do if he won? Like, what was he going to do? He doesn't do, I don't know, motorsports, doesn't go to strip bars, he doesn't do coke. Like, what was he gonna do if he took over Middle Earth? Like, what was the point? Like, what was his end goal? Like, if it's just him and his homies and the orcs and some of the men of the East and stuff. Like, what was he gonna what was the point? Like, what was his ultimate desire? I get he's a bad guy, but what was the end goal? What was he gonna do with all the power? You know? What was he gonna do? Also, how did the Men of Iron in Warhammer lose if they're artificial intelligence? Same with Dune. How did they lose? How did AI lose? I don't think it can. It's bullshit. Sauron's motivations are bullshit. Something he's not telling us. And maybe all the Warhammer people are in a simulation. Who knows? You know what I think is funny is, you know, when you see these like alternative S&C coaches, and they're doing like single leg payloft press, and they're like, that, it'll be like the tiniest little band. Like the artificial bracing isn't doing anything. Doing the movement correctly is what helps. You just be like this, but they're like, okay, it's starting to rain and you won't be able to hear me. So thanks for watching this session. Check out the Seek Strength app at iOS and Android. I know a lot of you are wondering about Seek Speed. Seek Speed is coming, but there's also something much bigger coming for athletes in a couple months. But Seek Speed will absolutely be a thing. I'm going to do a few more sets of this. I'll talk to you guys later.